Hey everyone, I'm Victor Dwyer with Piranha, and this is the Failures and Wins podcast, where we cover the latest founders, the latest thinkers in the field, and we just cover what obstacles they went through and how they navigated those obstacles. And then we're also going to dive into a little bit of strategy and a little omni-channel approach when it comes to online and retail. Today we have David on. David, thank you so much for joining. Please give us an intro about who you are and how you kind of got started into this whole business thing.
Awesome, Victor. Well, thank you for having me, and excited to be here. I'm David Habib. I'm founder of Yo Mama's Foods, headquartered in Clearwater, Florida. We're a natural pasta sauce, condiment, and salad dressing company, focused in on providing America and the world with clean ingredient items, using only ingredients that your mom has in her pantry. Um, so
Yeah.
that's really exactly how we got started, and why we're in business. When I started this in 2017, I was having some pretty bad acid reflux from pasta sauces and tomato-based sauces, and really started to look at what was in products, and started to recognize or not recognize anything really. There were a lot of ingredients that were not commonly held in my household growing up. And that's really where the inspiration came from. My mother is a wonderful cook, and would always make us, really great meals. And there was a special language and communication around food, which I thought was really important, and something that I was lacking when I was just eating, shelf stable garbage in the grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was really the start, looking at some of the most used items, pasta sauces, salad dressings, and condiments, looking at how we can clean them up using only ingredients that mom has in her pantry. And
Mhm.
that was the beginning of this wild adventure. And, ultimately, no one makes better food than your own mama, right?
That is so true. That is so true. And when it came down to it, what made you take that step from saying, "Hey, like I'm having acid reflux," when it comes down to the pasta sauce, and rather than just like not eating like pasta sauce, what made you take that step of saying like, "Hey, like I want to like go and create my own. Like I want to go and do my own thing." What kind of like led you to that moment?
Absolutely. So, I was looking for something quick, and still am, but didn't really have the time to slow cook something for 4 to 8 hours, right? So that was really the start of that piece of it. But the other piece is, food is ultimately medicine, and whatever you consume is what you become. So, I think that was an important thing. Is I couldn't find what I was looking for in the marketplace, and I knew that was a common problem, from a lot of other people that I was speaking with, who didn't know what xanthan gum or preservatives, or different types of sorbic acid or potassium sorbate. Excuse me, all of these things that my mom didn't have in her pantry when I was growing up, and still doesn't uh, today. So that was really the ultimate need. We wanted to create something that was time saving, something that ultimately tasted good, and something that can approach a lot of people, and can change a lot of lives.
Yeah, that's amazing. And then when it came down to like starting it, like when it came to like really starting the business and trying to like really get going, like obviously you went through like millions of probably or like you went through lots of A/B testing when it comes to the taste and things like that. Once you found your like perfect recipe, then like I imagine you had to go through that whole process of like learning how to package it, then understanding like how the e-com. Like I'd love to understand about a little bit about what was your first and success. Was it like oh, did you launch on online and then that was your success, or did you launch in retail? Like, what was your first success essentially that happened when you were first starting?
Victor, it was a very interesting process. I
Uh-huh.
didn't have any background in manufacturing or in food.
Mhm.
And specifically, food is science, so there's tremendous amount of knowledge that has to be obtained for how to properly, bottle things. So I knew that this was never something that we can do, and that it was something that I had to outsource. So we started working with manufacturers, and still do today, who actually bottle and produce our items. That was a really challenging process.
Mhm.
As someone that didn't have any specific food experience, going to these companies, telling them that we weren't going to use preservatives, or we weren't going to package it with the common, bottled garbage that's out there. We got a lot of pushback, and ultimately there were many packers who didn't want to produce us, and still won't today, because they want to be able to, pump their items with certain things that your mom doesn't have in her pantry.
Yeah.
So we stood very true to our values, and still do today, and that's really important. And I'd say that that's important for any entrepreneur listening. Know and trust your gut, and understand the purpose of why you're in business. And if that ever starts to change, then you might have a problem, right? So you shouldn't change why you're in business just to accommodate a supplier or a manufacturer. You should be very firm on it. So, you know, I'd say that all led us to a very challenging, 3 years of growth in the early days of really trying to find the right partners, trial and error, getting, taken advantage of from a lot of different suppliers who were, just not helping us with price breaks, or not really seeing the long-term vision for the brand. So one of the biggest things, to answer your question, Victor, that was really important for us in the early days, and still is today, was the launch on Amazon. And we launched on Amazon in October of 2017. We launched our business a few months prior, May of 2017. We launched Mother's Day,
Mhm.
which
Wow.
was very, very fitting. But
Uh-huh.
understanding how the grocery business works, takes a lot of courage and time. And I knew that Amazon was a great platform with not a lot of red tape to be able to ultimately, launch and grow a brand. So um, it wasn't quite as much of the wild, wild west as it is today, and it
Mhm.
wasn't as competitive and highly saturated as it is today. So
Yeah.
we had a certain advantage in 2017, but it's been a tremendous platform for us, a lot of learning, a lot of growth, and most importantly, it's given us access to so many different customers and households that we would have never been able to reach without Amazon.
Yeah. And Amazon, like, 5 years ago was so, like, easy when it comes to, like, not very many advertisers, like, it wasn't very pay to play type of thing. Because back 5 years ago, there's actually a tool out there that you can see almost 80% of this, search, was just organic, free organic, and just 20% was sponsored, which was you had to pay for. And now, if you look at it today,
Yep.
it's 60% is sponsored, 40% is free.
Right.
So, it's really crazy how things have changed where it's really becoming more pay to play, and if you aren't paying, like, for those placements, you're not gonna be seen on Amazon. And
Exactly.
Amazon's a momentum engine, and if you don't keep those sales going, that they're not gonna care as much. So it's
Exactly.
really, really fascinating. Um and it's really also hard to pretty tell that story of what you described about how, like, hey, no preservatives and no everything else. They I will say Amazon is getting more creative when it comes to their advertising, when it comes to videos.
Yes. Absolutely.
So, like, with their whole videos, and that's what I recommend to the clients that are clients that do have that story, but you can't tell that with just an image and just, the title tags. Like, like you tell that story through the sponsor brand video, and then it goes a long way. So
Exactly.
that's usually what I recommend for the people that have that story of like why you're unique and why you might be a little bit more higher priced than other products. Is where
Exactly.
I go with it.
And somehow you have to consolidate that into a nice 30-second video
Yeah.
to be able to capture someone's attention within a couple of seconds.
And like a lot of people say like, "Oh, we don't have like the fancy videos. We don't have like 5 grand to spend on a video." But you really don't need like I used to create videos for clients that were super like literally just an image and I move the image slightly and it looks like it makes the video and then you slap some text on it. Like starting out, you really don't need that fancy videos. Guys, it is 2023. If you do not have videos in like your Amazon listing or just like in videos in general, you are behind. Like that was
Absolutely.
like a 2020 thing, but now we're in
Absolutely.
2023. So you got to have videos on your listing and things like that. It doesn't have to be fancy. Like you can get fancier as you go, but just like starting out, you just got to get something out there because a video is so much more engaging than an image. It's like not even funny.
Completely agree.
Yeah. And when it comes down to it, um, what what are some failures in the past that when you were creating the food, whatever it was, finding the right manufacturer or things like that, was there one pivotal point that you saw that was a big either something that happened to you, like a big obstacle that came in your way and you couldn't you really had to solve it and really try to push to fight back in order to do that, whether it was finding the right manufacturer or everything else like that. Was there one big obstacle that you tried to overcome, and how did you end up overcoming that obstacle?
Absolutely. So food is volume, Victor. So in
Yeah.
order for any food business to work, you have to be able to sustain a lot of volume. But in order for the financials to make sense, you have to have good cost of goods, and the only way you can get good cost of goods is through a lot of volume. So um,
Yeah.
these were tough lessons and very important lessons learned in the early days. Uh, our first jar of sauce cost us close to $6 to
Mhm.
actually make. And by
Wow.
the time it was on the grocery store shelf, it was over $18.
Wow. That's
So
crazy.
understanding that, you have to sell to a distributor, and the distributor has to sell to the store, and the store sells to a customer, and really understanding the unit economics behind that is really important. So if anyone has any item that they want to launch in the retail store, you want to take your desired retail price and work backwards from that to be able to get your targeted cost of goods. And when I did that exercise, it was very concerning to me. And I quickly realized that the only way we can do it is number one, by scaling and growing and really building a strong business and strong retail footprint to move millions and millions of jars. Or option two is to be like everyone else and start to cut back on your ingredients, start to cut back on your obsession over quality, start to not really focus in on why you're different in the first place.
Mhm.
So obviously option two is not what we chose and what I decided.
Yeah.
So the only way that we could pursue option one is by really pushing the retail side hard, and that's where Amazon became a really important platform for us because it gave us the credibility, it gave us all of the data, it gave us a lot of tools that we can then take to retailers and ultimately show them, what customers are saying, where is their demand, show them a lot of our visuals as well, and really that's key. I'd say is once you can keep on and stay persistent, getting into retail is extremely challenging as well.
Mhm.
But there's a time and place for, I think, your product if it's the right fit. And the world, I think, is very product polluted. There's
Yeah.
so many different products out there. So really understanding that why and how you are different and why the customer, has a demand for this item is really, really important.
Yeah. And what you described is like what everyone has to go through, because it's like that same feedback loop that they go through is like, well, in order to be profitable, my cost of goods has to be low, but in order for my cost of goods to be low, like I need to order like a huge number of volume of
Exactly.
product, but you don't know, like you might not either have the cash or you don't know like how much you're going to go through. So it's this like very very big like feedback loop of like it's really difficult to start because you have to really figure out like how much you're going to go through and things like that. So I assume starting out, like that must have been some pretty painful lessons when it comes to profitability that you had to go through. What would you recommend to someone that's starting to to obviously their profitability is going to be very very small at the very beginning, but as you build up volume and things like that, it goes up in a way when it scales up, and when you start ordering more units. What would you recommend to someone going through that process of like being very like not very profitable at the very beginning, but as they start to scale, how would you recommend them to go through that process?
Definitely have a clear path towards profitability as far as what volumes you have to obtain to get price breaks from your suppliers, from your manufacturers. So I think it's really important in the beginning to set clear goals and expectations with your suppliers and manufacturers. And these companies, especially today with so much supply chain issues,
Yeah.
they, it's very hard as a new company to get any relationship with, these large multi-million dollar companies that are already selling to tons of different customers. So really making sure that you have clear goals and expectations with them to communicate how you're growing the brand, to communicate where you're ultimately selling. That will help them to, ultimately want to invest and grow with you as well,
Hmm.
as opposed to kind of being a one-time supplier that only orders, or I'm sorry, a one-time customer that only orders every, 9 to 12 months. So in the
Yeah.
early days and, in all days, maintaining those supplier relationships is extremely critical to any startup because you don't have the buying power, you don't have the strong brand name, you don't have the perfect credit score that a lot of the more legacy businesses do have, who are also customers of the same suppliers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. What would you say is another lesson that you learned throughout creating your business, or maybe when it comes to scaling your business, like when it comes to strategy? Um, is there one big moment where that ended up being very successful when it comes to either marketing strategy of launching your pasta sauces or whatever it may be? Was there one other um, obstacle or thing you learned that would be helpful to the audience by chance?
I use the framework start small, think big, and scale quickly.
Mhm,
And that's, I think, really important. So as a startup, you have the advantage and the market advantage of being really nimble. And when you launch an item, it doesn't have to take 6 years of product testing and legal and marketing and all of these things that by the time these big companies launch something, all those trends and fads are already gone.
mhm.
So starting small is really important. It's okay to have you know a, not a perfect market ready product, but by starting small, you'll be able to get that customer feedback quickly and ideate and go on the sales floor and see what customers like, and ultimately what they don't like, so that you can keep on getting better. Thinking big obviously is important in any business, but specifically in the food business. If you want to survive, you need those supplier relationships with the major retailers because that's obviously where most customers shop. So
Mhm.
you're in Texas, Victor. So that's your HEBs and
Yeah.
central markets, and those are great accounts for us. But ultimately, you have to understand where you need to sell to reach the the most amount of customers. And that's your Amazons, your Walmarts, your Publixes, all of the largest grocers. Require a lot from brands, so you have to have those clear expectations. And lastly, scaling quickly is really important. If you want to be able to make a dent in the marketplace, you have to scale quickly, and you have to be able to create a strong brand. And without that, without having a good omni-channel presence and a beautiful website for customers to explore you, even if that means getting, 3 orders a day, it doesn't matter. Your website is the face that the brand is ultimately putting towards the world. And that paired with a good e-com channel such as Amazon or any other type of online channel paired with retail, that's kind of that trifecta that's needed to really be able to relate to most customers.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And is there, when it comes to the omni-channel, like, process and approach, what would you say is a very good omni-channel strategy when it comes down to these people launching on Walmart.com, Amazon.com, and a lot of these other platforms out there? What would you say is a good approach for that? Um, or when it comes to strategy on each particular channel, like it could be like Amazon strategy. Is there um, any strategy, marketing strategies you've been doing, whether it's through social media or things like that, that have been working for you lately?
I think it's really important to set pricing correctly, especially with Amazon. You can potentially lose a buy box if your item is priced cheaper at another retailer. So
Yeah.
really understanding pricing and understanding what specific margin you need to be able to support the business is very important. The, Running any business on Amazon or any business in general that's selling to e-com channels or retail channels is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
There's trade spend, there's 2% spoils allowance, there's 2% early payment discounts, even though no one ever pays you. There's shipping. Uh,
Yeah.
there's really a lot that comes out of the pie. So if you don't have a good solid gross margin in the beginning, you're setting yourself up for not being able to sustainably scale. So I think that that's really important. As far as strategies go, YouTube has been a nice channel for us. We do a lot of different recipes for our items, and it gives a nice, engaging way for customers to figure out how they can use our items. What are some unique recipes? What are some fun, quick, time-saving recipes as well? So I think that's been another fun way for us to use video and to make it impactful for our customers.
That's amazing. And when it comes to YouTube, are you talking about like organic YouTube postings like on yours, or are you talking about like influencers posting with your sauce, and using their recipes with your sauce?
We do both,
Okay.
Victor. So we have our own content that gets uploaded to our channel, which is Yo Mama's Foods,
Mhm.
and they're just nice 30-second recipe videos that are just really clean and then fun. And then also our influencer videos. We do a lot of different paid marketing opportunities with them to kind of grow the audience to certain segments that we wouldn't normally reach.
That's amazing. Yeah, I like how driven you are towards social media because a lot of brands, they just really don't focus on it,
Mhm.
and it's just not like a very low priority for them. Usually it's just like, hey, like how many sales are we going to get right away? But I really like the difference between you're not just a seller, that you're actual brand. Like I always talk about the difference between a seller and a brand. Seller is
Absolutely.
like sale, sale, sale. Like how many can I get today? Like how many sales can I get today? But you're really trying to build a brand presence, by like building recipes and like doing things on YouTube. I think that's really amazing. Um, a really amazing strategy because you really don't know your ROI too much off of
Right.
like YouTube. You like people might go to YouTube, watch your video, and then go to Amazon right after and purchase, but there's
Exactly.
really not a lot of tracking that goes onto that. but
Right.
it happens. Like you know it happens when you get a lot of views on a video. People are going to try your sauce,
Of
and I
course.
love that. And wow, you're like, and these videos are honestly making me hungry. You're just looking at them, to be honest. Looks really good. What made you? I'm just curious. So that's a very big difference between like what other people do and what you're doing. What made you start to prioritize social media? What got you into saying like, "Hey, we got to be on YouTube. Hey, we should do recipes there." What kind of pushed you to doing that?
Everything really builds on each other. So when you go to retail, they want to see that. When you're online, they want to see that. Um, and when I say they, I mean customers, not
Yeah,
not and not buyers. If a customer is making a purposeful decision to try your brand, you have to convince them in 3 seconds or less why they should stop buying the brand that they've always been buying and try something new. So that takes a lot. It takes a lot to change habits and to change loyal customer behavior. And when you're building a brand, you want to try to do that, but that ultimately takes time.
yeah,
And in order to do that, a customer has to see you all the time. They have to see
yeah.
you everywhere. They need to see you on Amazon. They have to walk past you at Kroger. They have to walk, maybe past a billboard, see you on a commercial, see you on QVC, stumble upon your influencer campaign on Instagram, and maybe then they will give you a try. So really, the strategy is to really be everywhere. You have to have a consistent message. You have to have a consistent brand, and the more touch points you can make with customers, the greater opportunity you have to ultimately get them to try the item. And once they try it, then ultimately they'll come back and be happy. But it takes a lot for that first kind of initial opportunity.
So, question for you. A lot of people with that seller mindset, that very short term mindset, they'll say, "What's the ROI of that billboard? What's the ROI of that influencer campaign? What's the ROI of seeing you on YouTube?" So, what would you say to someone that like that? What you said makes perfect sense, but what would you say to someone that's saying, "Hey, what's the ROI of this billboard? What's the ROI of this influencer campaign?" Like, what would you kinda say to that to kind of get out of that short-term mindset and start seeing it saying like, "Hey, like, keep like, these people are gonna constantly keep looking at you and you gotta be in their face, and eventually it'll lead to sales." How do you go through that?
Right. It really goes back to unit economics, Victor, because if the product is built with the right margin, then anything is possible. If the product is built with the wrong margin, then those opportunities and that necessary trade spend to properly support the item is impossible.
Mhm.
And that's really where a company, a person, a brand has to decide. What do they want to do? Do they want to be a really prominent regional brand and sell to 30 stores and do those really, really well? And that's excellent. And there's a lot of companies who do that and who do that well, and they do it in a very profitable environment. Um, but for those who want to go big and want to build a national or international brand, the only way that that's feasible is by understanding the investment that's required into brand awareness, marketing, advertising, to ultimately create a strong presence. And you know our brand name is exactly that. It's definitely memorable. It's not something that customers forget.
That's true.
But
You're right about that.
it's also important to factor in that everything you do is branding. Your
Yeah.
packaging, your emails, how you communicate to customers, how you resolve issues with customers when things like damages or lost packages happen. Your boxes, your shirts, your office, everything is about the brand. And the more you focus on covering 100% of those elements and making sure that every single item that is touched or presented by your company, from how you communicate in emails to your signatures to everything. That all is what is the snowball effect of brand building,
Yeah.
and that's ultimately uh, the only thing that you have that can continuously increase value over time.
Yeah. And I really think that goes like a lot different from that seller mentality versus that brand building mentality of saying like, hey, we're building a real brand here. So question for you, you talked about margins and having that healthy margin. What would you say to someone that had a really good margin, but then just got nailed with inflation. And then like we're like they could have had a super healthy profit margin, and then inflation could have hit them right like on the head, and now are having real issues with their profit margin, and they're running a bit huge business at scale because a lot of people are going through this right now.
Of
So,
course.
what would you say to someone that is going through that process of they're at a large scale business and all of a sudden they hit inflation and now their profit margins are really really thin. What like what would you say, what benefits would you give to them of how to like solve that?
So we're absolutely in that same boat, just like most other businesses are. Number one, I'd say it's extremely important to shop everything all the time. You know, we don't like to be comfortable here. It's good to maintain supplier relationships, but at the end of the day, there's always someone out there who can do it better and cheaper. And that's the beauty of competition.
Yeah.
Just like we're selling pasta sauce, a customer has the opportunity to purchase from 500 different brands of pasta sauce. So
Mhm.
as a company, really understanding that you always have options is important. It's very easy to become focused on one supplier increase or one thing that you think is going to end your entire business. But at the end of the day, it's really an opportunity to just get out there and shop things better. So we've learned that lesson, numerous times throughout the past 6 years, and many times when we've been past very large increases, it's enabled us to kind of look at our entire business and figure out, what specific elements or suppliers or items are bleeding us. So that's number one. Number two, the easiest way to combat uh, crazy price increases is just also trying to grow volume at the same time.
Yeah.
So as long as the business is growing, you're able to weather the storm. You may not be making the same per unit, but if you're selling more, then that's a good strategy to be able to help you recover when things do stabilize, if they ever do. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would
Yeah.
say I would
Uh,
say always shopping things, having backup suppliers for everything, and holding everyone to what specific price point you must be at.
yeah.
It's not okay to just accept something when you have a good supply relationship and your suppliers know that too.
Yeah.
It's in their best interest to keep your business. So I think that's a really important piece.
So to go on top of that, what is your strategy when it comes to suppliers? Like, are you using multiple different suppliers at the same time and having so that way you're not using just one? Or do you kind of say like, hey, let's order 100 units of this one supplier and then do a huge bulk order after that? What is your process? Because usually when I talk to people, they say, "Oh yeah, we've been using this one supplier. We have a really good relationship," and they usually just stay with that one for the most part, and they just keep bulk ordering off of that one. So what is your strategy when it comes to using multiple suppliers? Do you use multiple at the same time? Do you go from one to another one? What is your process for that?
Really depends on the item and how readily available it is in the marketplace. We like to have at least three suppliers for anything that we purchase. So whether that's boxes or onions or really anything, it's important to have quick names, because you never know if If
Sure.
all your eggs are in that one basket, which we've learned in the past with our manufacturers, where we were producing 100% of our items with one co-packer, and something happened to that relationship, and then now we can't produce anything, right?
Yeah.
So diversification is always key when it comes to stability and prices. It can be very advantageous to buy 100% of one specific thing from one supplier. So there's definitely strategy there. However, there's also always caution doing that, knowing that if you put all your eggs in that basket and the supplier comes back with a 20% price increase, which is normal today. I mean, especially for the past 18 months, a 20% price increase would have been, it's just as gut wrenching today as it was
Yeah.
18 months ago. But I think that suppliers and most companies today are in a much different position. They know that I think all businesses have become so much sharper because everyone has had to shop things. Everyone has had to really focus in on that gross margin and focus in on where they can save and how they can save without ever taking away quality. So yeah, shopping things and diversification are kind of key towards anything major.
And I wanted to get your thoughts on the future of inflation. Like, is this going to, in your opinion, do you think this is going to be an ever ongoing thing? Like, right now, profit margins are really thin because of inflation. Like, I guess it really can't go backwards at this point. So what do you think is the future of what's going to be going on here? Like is this going to what are future businesses going to be doing? Are they going to have to stay at this margin and are they screwed? Like what do you in your opinion what's kind of the future of inflation of kind of what's going to be happening here?
I think once suppliers and once companies raise their prices, uh, even if they get savings, it's very rare that you're going to see those savings. So then this goes back to the idea and the importance of really shopping everything, because at the end of the day, economics will always rule out, and competition will always win. So if a supplier is not passing on price savings to you, but you're able to quote a similar price from a competitor, then you can almost guarantee that they're going to try to match that to be able to keep your business. And throughout time, that will keep on bringing it back to, I think, somewhat normal levels.
Yeah.
So it's really just a matter of time and competition. And throughout that time of sticking to the game, then that's where you'll be able to hopefully see savings. So we haven't seen too much of that now, but we are seeing a little bit less pressure in the market as demand in general is slowing down, and
Mhm.
as the shipping container crisis has also slowed down. I think that we're starting to see some of those normalization in the market.
Yeah, the $25,000 shipping container is still
Mind blow.
mind-boggling.
It is.
Like, I need to go out and, get some metal and then start making some at $25,000.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. So, is there anything else that you wanna make sure you communicated today that it would be helpful? Either, you either think about something in a different way that other people do, saying like, "Hey, I see a lot of people doing this, and they should be doing this." Is there anything else you wanna make sure you communicated today?
Victor, I would just kind of reiterate the points on brand building
Yeah.
and the importance of as you stated nicely, that seller mentality versus brand, because a brand is what will be able to sustain the business through the good times and the bad times. And creating that customer loyalty can't happen if you're just a seller, because if you sell pens, so do 55,000 other sellers, right? But if you sell a brand and if you sell a vision and a lifestyle with that pen, then you're creating something that's a little bit more long lasting and something that will definitely resonate with customers. So
Yeah.
brand building, I'd say, is everything. And again, everything you do is brand building. From your emails to your signatures to the notes to your website, your packaging, how suppliers view you, how customers view you, how retailers view you. Everything is all part of that, massive, important omni-channel approach of building a solid brand.
And that's a really amazing way to look at it because when you're focused on building a brand, you just have so much more better positivity associated with you. Like then you start focusing, okay, when you have good customer service, we need to be where the customer matters. And like when you're more it makes you more customer focused when you are building a brand. It's saying like, hey, we're growing something over time where we're not just trying to like do a quick I forgot what it's called, but it's like you build a business up real fast and you sell it real fast. Like you're not doing a quickie like type of thing where
Right.
you're like really trying to build something and grow something. And I just think it's amazing. Like it really is. Like a lot of people are just there to see how much money they can get and how fast they can get it. But you really are trying to build a real brand and really try to get people to enjoy your mama sauce.
Right.
But that's awesome. So unfortunately, that's all we have time for today. I bet we can go on for three more hours of it. So David, please tell them the audience how to find you, where to buy Yo Mama sauce, and yes, please tell them how to find you.
Thanks, Victor. You can find us on our website, yourmamasfoods.com. We also have a nice store locator there. You can find us really at any major retailer, from BJ's, Sam's Club, Walmart, Publix, Harris Teeter, HEB. So most major retailers do carry us. And then, of course, you can find us online through Amazon.com, Sam's.com, Walmart.com, and our website as well. And QVC.com as well
Cool.
for all
Awesome.
those TV shoppers out there.
Okay, awesome. This is the Failures and Wins podcast. Thank you